Welcome to this episode 4.1 regarding a brief presentation of the so-called AB system. This episode is intended to precede the following couple of episodes where we focus on the content of the contracts relative to the construction contract and the consultancy contract. So also this refers back to, of course, Chapter 3 about the entering into these contracts, where also we, to some extent, went into the area about the substance of these contracts. So the AB system is, as I have mentioned a few times, is a system of so-called agreed documents. It is widely used throughout the construction business, and as mentioned, for public sector clients it is almost obligatory to use the AB system whenever entering to construction contracts. So it is widely used also outside the public sector, as mentioned a few times, because simply it's a well-functioning and effective system which has the benefits of being this agreed document, which means that the various stakeholders in construction, they have met up and discussed the system here, and it has been tried and tried over again in arbitration cases. So whenever there is a problem in the system, this has been remedied over time. So this has been continuously tested and improved during more than 100 years now. Here are a mentioning of the various parties, from public authorities, from builders, from constructors, from consultants, and from private clients as well, and semi-private clients. All has been involved in this process for many years now, and that guarantees that it is a balanced document, so that the interests of all the parties have been more or less evened out, you might say. Sometimes you hear people complain that it doesn't have enough teeth, one might say, and of course it is a compromise to some extent between these stakeholders. So it doesn't necessarily meet all requirements, but in the same way as all these non-binding rules, this is intended to be a sort of meet maybe 80-90%, maybe even 95% of normal requirements in this regard. So, as mentioned, it's been around since the late 1800s and has been revised roughly every 20 or 25, 30 years. Through this whole period, it has been evolving. I will now go through the kind of different documents which are included in the system. First of all, of course, we have the AB 18, English translation. It's called the General Conditions. AB refers to Almindelige Betingelser in Danish, which just translates to General Conditions for works and supplies in construction. So these are the basic construction contracts covered in this system. So the AB 18 is a set of standard clauses, standard contract. You can take the whole bulk of the AB 18 and refer to that in your construction contract, and it will then be part of the contract. Or, as also indicated, you can pick and choose, and you can take some, leave some out, and also you can rewrite some. If you want a different solution than the system supplies, you can put that in instead at your own account, as long as you're clear about it in the contract. Same thing goes, of course, for ABT 18. The ABT is for the turnkey projects, construction for design and build. So here also the tender is also about the design process of the construction, as mentioned. So this is the turnkey project standard contract. Then we have, as a third of the three basic documents, the ABR, General Provisions for Consultancy Services, and as it should spell out. This, of course, is what is here about typically architect or engineer, the various types of consultancy contracts covered in Chapter 3. Then there are some appendixes. We have the APP project, additional conditions to AB 18 and ABT 18 for contracts where the contractor is to assist in the development of the project. This is it's been a predominant development in recent years that contractors has become still more involved in the development and design of projects. So that is to accommodate this development. These appendixes has been created. Same thing more or less goes for the project administration, project optimization, where here the contractor is not to get directly involved in the design process, but he is to supply his understanding, his know-how to the development of the project. Then we have the APP operation requirements, and these are conditions for also AB 18 and ABT 18 for where there are requirements for operational performance which can only be verified during an operation which happens after construction has finalized. So this is where there are in the original contract there are some requirements for the operation of the construction, perhaps energy consumption or the like, and then later on you have to verify whether these conditions have actually been met. APP incentives is where you want to add additional incentives into the contract. Of course, the contract covers also the payment, but in case that you want to have some specific incentives in the contract for various reasons, as I mentioned earlier in a previous episode, that this is often done in partnering, where the various contractors work together in order to achieve certain goals, and this is kind of instigated by these incentives. So if they reach the goals by working together in order to save time and money, they will be rewarded by additional bonuses. So that's one example where such additional incentives may come in play. Also, we have some simplified editions of AB Simplified, which is kind of the AB 18 Simplified, or the AB 18, the normal version. Here is a kind of shorter and simpler version for smaller and or less complicated tasks. ABR Simplified for smaller and less complicated consultancy works. And then there is, maybe you shouldn't call that a simplified version, the AB Consumer, where a special standard contract in relation to consumers, where the contractor is, well, of course, a professional party, but the client is not a professional. The client is a consumer, is a private person. To my knowledge, it hasn't been used all that much, but I've put a few points in here about what the AB Consumer contains, and by and large these are general rules which might have applied more or less regardless of whether such a contract had been entered into or not. For instance, if it says here that the contractor must ask the consumer to decide whether the work should be continued if the price exceeds the original price estimate by 15% or more. I think that pretty much corresponds with normal good practice in this kind of relationship. A few more points here. I'll not go into details. It's just because we are probably not going to revisit the AB consumer very much, but I think it's important that it should perhaps be promoted a little bit more than it has been so far. So here are a few of the other points included in the AB consumer. Then there are some kind of a little bit more proliferable things here, like this standard warranty texts. These are same as the rest of the AB system. These are contract clauses or parts of contracts. You might say that the AB 18 and ABR and ABT and so that they are complete contracts, which you can take the whole thing and put in there. But these are more like fragments. Standard warranty texts is if it is agreed in the contract, and this is also taken care of in AB 18 and ABR 18, that quite often the parties will have to make guarantees towards each other. We will come back to that in relation to the AB 18 and ABT or the ABR 18. The contractor will put up a guarantee towards the client, kind of a bank guarantee, so that if he doesn't meet his targets, if he's delayed, for instance, then he will have to pay sort of a fee, and if he can't pay that, it'll be drawn out from this bank guarantee, for instance, and vice versa. The client will also have to put up a guarantee that he can pay the money required according to the contract to the contractor. This is, as I said, part of the normal system. You don't have to do that, of course, but as everything here, it is voluntarily. These are non-binding rules. It's not a law. It's just, as I say, a standard contract, standard agreed document. So here they have made a specific one, which is giving another or better result, perhaps you could hope for these agreements between the parties as to how this guarantee should be arranged. And this has been also negotiated with the financial institutions, have been involved in developing this warranty texts. Then we have something called service specifications. In connection, there are 3 service descriptions in relation to ABR 18. So these are, you might say, more specific consultancy agreements than ABR 18. So you would then use ABR 18, and then, if need be, you would supplement with one of these 3 additional, more detailed service descriptions. The service descriptions are like the contract itself, of course, describes the services to be provided as well as the pay to be received. These service specifications goes into, you might say, more detail about specifying the service to be delivered according to the contract. So we have the Construction and Landscape 2018. This is closely related to the ABR. I'll not go into much detail about these. It's just that you should know that they exist and you can read the slide. Then there is the client consultancy. We discussed also here in Chapter 3, as mentioned, the various types of consultancy contracts, and the client consultancy is the one where the consultant is closely linked to the client and probably is conducting the kind of management on behalf of the client of the whole building process. He is the one who prepares the tender and so on and so forth. So there's a specific specification of the services in this regard. And then there is one specific more for landscaping. If that is the main object of the consultancy, then you can specify that here. So this was the, I think, pretty brief presentation of the AB system. should be said perhaps that there are also other service descriptions made up by various clients who make their own service descriptions. But this here is the AB system, the agreed documents issued by these parties. So next episodes we will focus on the AB 18 contract and the ABR 18 contracts.